And they like to pick on the right, but they're messed up, man. All this tolerance, we're tolerant. We're so tolerant that we kill our unborn. That's how tolerant we are. We're tolerant. We're just acceptant of. We're just accept everything. So we stop little kids from praying because they're just terrorizing our schools with their prayers. Little children, we don't let them pray anymore. You get my point? It's like, let me just save you a lot of help. There's a song that Larry Norman did years ago. He said, and this is pretty much the state of politics in the church, politics in the world. This is the way it is. Politics, it all is man-made. So when we have our ear tuned into that, or media, or any of that stuff, and we're not tuning we're tuning our ear in more to media. I love to watch the news, by the way. In fact, my child came and prophesied to me one day. You know how he prophesied to me? He slammed the doors, because I don't watch sitcoms, I don't watch TV, I just don't. I fall asleep in most movies. But I had an addiction to the news. I love the news. I love them all yelling at each other. I just love that. So I was watching the news one day, and my son Samuel walks in. He slams the doors to our TV cabinet, and he stands in front of me and he says, "No more news." That's what he said. Oh, God. I realized, man, you start taking the Word or listening to the Word, and all of a sudden, you actually begin to have a free mind again. Your mind gets clear. You start reading Jesus' words. Your mind gets... You can no longer go into some bound-up doctrinal, denominational thing that believes that they're the only thing that's going to make it to heaven. You know what I mean? You can no longer be around that kind of religion, and you can no longer be around the whole liberal thing where they have their own religion. You know what I mean? And they're just, oh, you got to believe this. Like one day, this lady came all sweet, and she walks up, and it was funny because my wife loves to do lawn work. Okay, so imagine this. I'm up in the north, Now they're all for, women being equal and all this stuff, you know what I mean? But they're walking up, and my wife's out, like, sweating, and I'm all dressed nice with my children. And this woman walks up, and my wife's, like, raking the lawn. And I'm just standing there doing nothing. But it's really funny because my wife, that's what she loves to do. And if I do the lawn work, she gets upset at me because that's like her, she just loves to do lawn work. I don't know why. I think it's because her dad thought she was too little to mow the lawn. So she never got to. So now she's like, I'm mowing the lawn. That's the way Rachel is. It's funny. So I'm like, okay, all right, you mow the lawn. But it's really embarrassing because, my neighbors are looking over the fence like, oh, yeah, Upton, what a loser. He never mows his lawn. My wife's out there raking. Anyway, I'm standing there, and it was 2004, right before the election. It's like October, right before the election, and they're all, hitting your houses. Well, we live in a very, a really extremely, they're extreme. Let's just put it that way. So they're walking up to our door, and they're going to knock on the door, and they're going to tell us to vote democratically. And I said, and I look at the lady, and I said, I'd probably, and I'm just trying to be nice, and here's my wife raking the, I'd probably vote. I might even vote democratically if I don't really vote Republican or Democrat. I vote on one issue right now. She said, what's that issue? I said, I don't believe that you should have the right to take the life of a child. So I'm telling you right now, you put somebody in office that, and that's a big thing that's going to be a huge thing for us in the future when it comes to, Giuliani. What are we going to do? All of us Republicans are going to save the world because they're Christians when he's for abortion. You know what I'm saying? It's not Republican, Democrat. Republicans pretty much want abortion as much as Democrats. Almost. So I just said it. And she was about ready to kill me. Stuff started fuming out of her mouth. Now you think about all the things that I agree with her on. And I can't just say, hey, I just completely disagree that a child isn't a child while in the womb. I don't believe it's right to kill a baby. Her mind was like, you can't be that free of a thinker. Now she lost me. She could have turned the conversation and said, well, let's talk about what we agree on. She couldn't do that. Why? Because she isn't tolerant. Because I could have had a big old conversation about what we all agree on. I just disagree on this one issue, but she couldn't have it, and she starts fuming, and like stuff I believe was coming out of her mouth. It's like foaming, like rabid dog. And she's like, I just want you to know that I don't appreciate the fact that you are willing to torture women. And my wife is like raking the lawn. I'm like, oh God. It looks bad. I was like, okay. All right. Like, I mean, just think, I'm just trying to think clearly here. How do we give your, I'm actually going to bring this back to us as a church too. What I was talking about last night again, but how do we, this is a renewal of the mind kind of moment, and it's all part of worship, by the way. How do we do this? Have you ever wondered how somebody can be such a not clear thinker that they can call George Bush Hitler? This is not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about George Bush. I'm really not. I don't agree with a lot of things about George Bush. But he's not Hitler. Are you crazy? Where do people come up with this stuff? Hitler? I go to a church that's Democrat, 50% Democrat, because I live in an area that has a lot of unions. We got 50% Democrat, 50% Republican. It is hilarious. Because our pastor opens the whole thing up to everybody in the church to just get up and just share their heart. You want to talk about some tension. You want to talk about some meeting of the minds. You know what I mean? It's like people are in church. They're like, well, I'll tell you what I think. And what you notice when you watch that kind of stuff is how we need to turn down the radio. And we need to turn up the kingdom and allow our minds to be clear again. You know, the church right now is a huge voting party, but that's not the beauty of the church. The beauty of the church is that we love our enemies and pray for those that persecute us. The beauty of the church is we could be that which brings people together. The beauty of the church is that we can call Mother Teresa. How does Mother Teresa have so many people? You know what I mean? There is no, you call about right, left, anybody. You start talking about Mother Teresa bad, you're going to get yourself beat up. You see what I'm saying? How does that woman have so much power? Because she can't be purchased by politics. She can't be purchased by a church. Even her own church, the Catholic Church, they didn't give her money to go to Calcutta. She went with pennies in her pocket, or whatever the equivalent of that was. Gets on a train and goes, and just starts ministering to people. It doesn't matter. Hindu religion, Buddhism, Muslim, or Islam, or even some of the worst politicians in America, they bow their knee when that woman would walk in the room. Or even their name is mentioned. That is authority. That's what God wants to give to the church. That's the beautiful. How can a woman that has that many wrinkles